So hi, welcome back to session 5. In this session, hopefully I've intrigued you enough about what Robocode is and what programming is that you might want to take your tank to the next level. How can you do that? Well, I'm going to give you essentially 2 hints as to how to do that. The first is a hint when you come upon this, well, how am I going to do that type questions. I want the tank to behave in this way, but how am I going to do that? Believe it or not, there are a lot of facilities there for you, and they're in something called the Robocode API. API stands for Application Programmer Interface. So you're programming, so you're a programmer. The application is Robocode, and interface is how you interact with Robocode to achieve some behavior. So let's go back to the Robocode homepage. Just type in Robocode into Google. We get to Robocode Home, and here's the screen that we originally downloaded Robocode from. Instead of going into the download page this time though, we're going to go into the Robocode API, the Application Programmer Interface. Once we do that, you'll see a lot of unfamiliar stuff come up on the screen. You see packages, remember we said they were essentially just directories, and you see classes coming up over here. These classes are essentially packages of functionality and data that you can use. Let's go into Robocode here, and let's see what sort of classes, bundles of functionality and data we can use. Let's look at the robot one, because it's a fairly basic one that can get us started. And here you'll see all the methods that are available to us. So at the bottom, for example, you'll see things like turn left and turn right. We use those when we're enhancing the navigation of our tank. But you'll also see that you can just turn the gun right and turn the gun left, and turn the radar right and turn the radar left. You can also just stop. You can also do things like scan to see if there are other tanks there. You can do crazy things like do nothing, which makes your tank miss a go, makes it a sitting duck essentially. So that sitting duck tag you may have seen on the list, that does nothing all the time. So these are facilities you can use, just like you use turn left and turn right, you can use these facilities. Sometimes you can do them to enact something, sometimes you can use them to get some information. So you can, for example, get the energy of your tank, and it'll return a number back to you, which will tell you how much energy your tank has. If you've low energy, you may decide to run and hide. If you've high energy, you may decide to be a bit more aggressive and shoot more at other tanks using up your energy, because you know you're in a good position. And maybe that strategy would change as the game goes on. Of course you'll have high energy at the start, but how are you doing after half the game, after a certain time period? So these are all the strategies you can build into your tank. So the second, slightly more dishonest way of improving your tank is to borrow someone else's code. So take a bit of a tank that works really well and use it for yourself. So let's try and do that. When we are in our robot editor, we can open, but we don't just have to open the tank that's in our package. We can move up to all robots. We can go into the sample directory, and we can see that we've got the code associated with all other tanks there. Tracker was a particularly successful tank, so let's see if we can borrow some of that. Let's see what we'll borrow. So unscanned robot, let's take a bit of that functionality. So unscanned robot, when you scan a robot, what do you do? In our tank, we just fired a bullet at it, but there's a lot of stuff that could be done here, more sophisticated stuff, so let's borrow some of that. Let's borrow this bit down here. This bit down here is, well, let's just grab it first and put it in our method, and then let's see if we can understand it, because it's important to understand what you're taking. Copy, close that window. We'll go down to our unscanned robot. I think we'll fire first, and then we'll do tracker's behavior. So, paste. So what does this say? When we scan a robot, we get a scanned robot event E. Okay, so we get some information about that scanned robot. We fire our bullet. That seems fairly productive once you scan a robot. And then we look at what's in E. What's in E? Well, one thing that's in E is the distance. So we can get the distance the tank is away from us, the scanned robot is away from us. We say, if it's less than 100, then, well, what would we do if a tank is less than 100 away from us? We'd retreat from it. And if it's, that's if it's ahead of us. If it's behind us, we'd move forward to get away from it. So we've got to get more information off E. Where is that tank? So we get E, get bearing, the bearing of tank E, where is it? If it's greater than minus 90 degrees in front of us and less than plus 90 degrees, then that means the tank is in front of us. Otherwise, else, it's behind us. So if it's in front of us, we go back 40, else, i.e. if it's behind us, we go forward 40. So we retreat away from the tank just after we fire. But we've essentially stolen or hacked this code from someone else. And that's probably fairly common programmer practice as well. So let's try and compile that and see if it works. Do we want to save it? Yes. And it has compiled. Okay. And let's see if we get any noticeable behavior in the battle. So let's start a new battle. And we'll remove all, and we'll put our tank in against tracker. Keep a lookout for our tank and see what it does now. So you see when it sees it's near a tank, it tries to get out of the way. Now it's making short juddery movements when it's near the tank to get away from it. It still didn't do much good, but we have changed the behavior of the tank. So that's it. Use the API, use other tanks' code to help you get along, and enjoy your playing with Robocode. Thanks very much.